Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the ever-improving No Soundbites Allowed podcast. My name is Michael Vasquez. We thank you for joining us in this adventure of describing the politics that go on in our nation on a personal and local level as often as possible, giving you, the audience, more than just 30 seconds to understand what's going on in our nation. We look forward to joining you as we go. Just sit back, enjoy the ride. Please remember, if you like the episodes, like it, share it, let other people know, and if you can, please donate, even if it's $2, even if it's $5, because it all makes a difference. We thank you, and here we go.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. That's right, this is your favorite program, the best podcast out there. It is No Soundbites Allowed, and this is your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. Always happy to be here with everybody. And more importantly, even today, we have a special guest in the audience. We have Felicia Mitchell, and she is with us, and she's going to be talking a little bit about, well, just politics in general. This is just a regular person, one of our listeners to the program, who's been following it, and she's going to be talking about what she thinks of the political culture out there, how it's affecting us on a local, national, all the way in all our lives. Felicia, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
All right. And hello. Say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And it's the first time you've ever been on a broadcast, any kind of recording. Is that right?
Yes. First time.
Okay. So it's a little scary?
A little bit.
All right.
Knees are knocking.
Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. It's not that scary at all. And pretty much after a minute or so, you'll probably get really used to the fact that you're talking into a microphone, and it'll be normal. Everyone gets thrown the first time. So I know there's a lot of things that a lot of people would like to talk about if they could. So let's start with the national, work our way from there. And obviously, you're a woman. Mm-hmm. You're younger than me.
Right.
Okay. Well, I don't like telling women's ages. Okay. Would it be fair to say you're a 20-something?
No, I'm 33.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
But I'll take that. I look like I'm in my 20s. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a pretty good idea of the younger generation than mine that may be listening in and some of their viewpoints and some of the things that they're concerned about, from a different perspective than, say, mine, at a half century now. So, thinking about 2017, let's start there. We had the election. We had Hillary Clinton for the Democrats. We had Donald Trump for the Republicans. And what did you think?
Well, I thought both were really crappy choices, let's be honest. I did not like Donald Trump at all. Very outspoken against him. But I'm a lifelong Republican, so I found myself in a really interesting predicament. For the first time in my life, do I vote against my party, or do I plug my nose and vote for somebody that I truly don't believe in? I definitely did not want to vote for Hillary Clinton. She had a lot of issues. I really truly believe there was a lot of corruption underneath. And as much as I dislike Donald Trump, I felt that in a lot of ways she may have been worse. I don't know. Looking back, was I wrong? I could be. I don't see everything as much in black or white anymore. I think I see a lot of gray areas that I'd always been uncomfortable exploring previously. But as a female, as a Republican, as a young person.
Yeah. I know, it's one of my little sound effects, sorry. I'm just saying.
Like, what was that?
You're telling the truth. No, this is a lot of truth that you're telling, so go ahead.
But as a female, as a Republican, and even as an evangelical, I came at the election from a different perspective, I think, than most people. And I was really uncomfortable at what I saw happening in my party, at what I saw happening in the country in general, the lack of communication between people, the inability to discuss differing viewpoints. And I don't think it's gotten any better. I think as much as everyone used to berate Barack Obama as this divider in chief, I don't think Donald Trump has done anything to bridge that gap. In fact, I think he thrives on the chaos. He likes it. He enjoys it. It gives him something to rally for. Okay. And it just gets worse, I feel.
Okay. So that's a big bite.
Yeah.
So let's break that down a little bit. And I know you're a little nervous. Don't worry. There's no commercials, no time limit. But let's address a couple of those things. And I agree. And I think most people in the nation, whether they were Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or anything else, thought that Hillary Clinton was a very flawed candidate and that she, to be generous, had the question of criminality behind her. I'll say it like that.
Right.
Actually, I'll say it the way I've said it before. She is a criminal, and she should never have been on the ticket, and Democrats made a major mistake with that. But that being said, you also bring up the fact that there are many people who, some of them are Republicans, conservatives, independents, libertarians, that also had an issue with President Trump and the style that he presents himself. And in many ways, it does harken back to President Obama and the way the extremes seem to be in our political and the highest elected offices in our nation. And I know there's been a lot of people who've had problems with him. At the same time, I think that it can be fairly said as well that President Trump has done a lot of things that have been very positive. He's had a positive effect on the economy. He's had a positive effect on national security. He's been moving things forward. Doesn't make him a great man, but it makes him an effective president, which is what we elected him for. Would you say that's true?
No.
Okay.
Don't you think that some of the credit to the economy deserves to be given to Barack Obama?
No.
Really?
No, not at this point.
We were in a really rough place.
No,
end of his term, his 8 years, his 2 terms.
That's absolutely wrong. And let me say why. It is historically very accurate to say. And I only say and let me clarify. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying the facts show that for every president, the first 9 months of their presidency are always related back to the president prior, because economics don't turn on a dime. Mm-hmm. So you're always going to see a trailing effect of that other president. So the first 9 months of Barack Obama's administration wasn't his. You can't blame him for part of the downturn that happened, because that wasn't his fault. That was President Bush. And before Bush, it was Clinton leading into Bush. So when we had the internet crash in 2001, that was because of Clinton policies. When we had the the housing crash, that was because of Bush. And now we have Obama's. He has different issues that are affecting us now. Some of them had a trailing, all of his stats were negative. But the last 9 months were part of his legacy. And now we are fully into a Trump legacy. And it's the same argument that was made about President Obama. Many Republicans, including myself, said after year one, you can't keep going back to Bush.
Right.
You know, he went back and for 8 years, he said, oh, it's all Bush's problems. These are all his fault. No, it's your administration. After the first year, it's all your policies that are affecting the economy. Sure. Same thing is true for for Trump.
Right. But in that same respect, the first year of Trump's presidency, the economy grew exponentially. Now, I will say that the stock market, probably the credit does go to Donald Trump in that case, because that's really all about investor confidence, and investors, if they don't have confidence, that's going to show in the numbers. So that has to do with Donald Trump for sure. But the economy in general, the low unemployment numbers, the job growth, all of that was starting to happen at the very end of Obama's presidency. So I didn't agree with a lot of things Obama did. I didn't vote for him either time. Mm-hmm. I had big problems with some of his policies in regard to Israel, and definitely in regard to things like his social progressive policies in regard to abortion. Also looking at his healthcare law, which was a complete disaster. all of those things were things I disagreed with. However,
Under Obama.
yes, under
Okay.
Obama, he did pull the country into that place of low unemployment and job growth and all of that as well by the end of his term. So some credit should be given to him, but it's all going to Donald Trump with little regard to what Obama did attempt to do.
See, and I disagree with that. And I disagree that for a couple of reasons. He didn't actually improve the unemployment rate. The major factor in lowering the unemployment rate was the fact that we had more people not counted on the unemployment rolls. The number of people who were outside of the workforce,
Right.
which is called the labor force participation rate,
Right. Those who stop looking, those who are on disability, things like that.
was at its lowest level in 30 years. 40 years, going back into the 1970s. We were at under 63%. Incredibly low. It's horrible.
But don't we measure the same way still under Trump? We still use those same numbers in that same skewed way.
The participation, well, the number is always still the same. It's the participation rate. Doesn't matter who's in charge. But the number has shown improvement. And so the number of people who are not counted as unemployed, but yet aren't working, has decreased. So that was the number that was actually lowering the unemployment rates. There were less people being counted, but still not working. Now we're saying that number is shrinking and the number of people working is going up. And a great way to see that, a lot of people don't know, so I always like to let them know, is if you go to BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from the government, same as every administration, it's absolutely neutral. Their only job is to check the numbers. That's all they do. And if you go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS.gov, which is their website, and the first, I believe it's the first table. Yep, there it is. So Table A shows you the participation rate, which at the moment, as of March 2018, is 2.9%, which is flat. And a year ago, it was 63%, so it's 0.1% down. In February, it was at 63. January, it was 62.7. Right now, it's 62.9. Essentially, it's flat. But that wasn't true before. So we've come down and maintained that number. The actual number of people not in the labor force is still pretty flat at 95 million people. Actually, slightly down. It's 95,335,000. But that number had increased dramatically under President Obama. And another thing that people can look at, and I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers here, so bear with me, I know. But in 2012, there were, not in the labor force, 87 million people. 87,242,000. 87,242,000. That gives you an idea of the scope of the difference. That's huge.
True. I'll give you that.
There's where, so to say that Trump has, that this is Obama improving it, no, he made it worse. And now we're stable.
For now.
I'm not saying the future. I can't speak to the future. I'm not telling you that he's got the best economic plan ever and it's going forward. But I do say, when I look at, and I have problems with President Trump, I don't think he's a great guy.
It's terrible.
But then again, I don't think President Obama's a great guy. I didn't think President Bush was a great guy.
But didn't they bring a bit more dignity to the office, though, than Trump does? Because,
yes,
I mean, it's just a sideshow. It's one thing after another. And some of that has to do with the fact that he's got people leaking classified information, and that's a problem that needs to be dealt with.
Every president has that.
Exactly.
Every president.
However, there's a whole other level to this president. And it started with his campaign, the rhetoric he was putting out there.
What do you mean?
So I know people try to deny that this happened, but he actually did make fun of a disabled reporter.
Okay.
That's disgusting, right?
Why?
Why? Because it's unkind. There's
it's not kind.
If you're leading a country, if you're going to be an example to the rest of the world, you want to show a level of dignity, a level of kindness, something that people can look at and respect. Why?
Yes.
Because I don't want to be portrayed to the world as a country full of idiots or people who are cruel or mean or bullies. Like,
they already think that though.
And why can't we change that?
They've always thought that about us.
Not necessarily.
Should it? Under Reagan, we were the cowboy country. Under Jimmy Carter, we were the weaklings. Under President Clinton, we were a bunch of sex-craved maniacs. Under Bush, they thought we were on drugs. So, I mean, these are the things that the world has said about America. They never like us because we're rich, free, and powerful all at the same time.
Right.
Now, I don't disagree that, one, take Twitter away from President Trump. And yes, he could speak better, but no president should be, in my opinion, this is my opinion, should be elected because they're great people. I could care less. Are they effective?
But what about like kid? Okay, so little girls are growing up, right? And there's just for me personally, from my perspective, there's a real lack of respect from Trump toward women in general. I mean, he says that he supports women. He's the biggest supporter of women there ever was. But you look at his words, and they don't necessarily match up. I know he has given a lot of women jobs, and he gives them places of power within his company. But at the same time, he also
in his presidency, in his administration,
sure,
and his campaign.
Well, how many of his cabinet members are women?
Actually, in his election campaign, the one who ran his election campaign was a
Kellyanne
woman.
Conway.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she should be celebrated for being the first woman to successfully take somebody to the White House, right? So that's something that definitely is worthy of applause. However, how many women are in his cabinet, though?
How many were in Obama's?
I actually don't know that answer.
Then it doesn't matter.
I'm not picking on you. He has a perception issue, though.
No, but here's the thing. The perception is made up. And
it's not made up.
Let me explain. When I hear people pick, and this is true for any president, I don't care which president it is. This is just a general rule of anyone in politics. When I point to someone and say, I'll give you a great example. When people are talking to me about the Second Amendment. When people are talking to me about the Second Amendment, they often tell me, okay, we should be more like England or Australia. And I'll use this Australia because that's a big popular one.
Right. I hear that all the time.
All the time people go, Australia, well, they changed their laws, their gun laws, and they don't have any mass shootings in Australia. Okay. And I asked them a question. How many mass shootings did they have before they put in that gun law. Silence.
Right.
You know why? Because they don't know.
Right.
So they don't know. So what changed? And here's the answer. The answer is they had 13 over 10 years. 13 mass shootings over 10 years, or in other words, 1.3 mass shootings per year. Mm-hmm. So statistically, going from 1.3 to 0 is 0. There is no change. Nothing changed. Their gun laws and their policy didn't have any effect because nothing changed. So realistically, there is no improvement. It's the same as it always was for them.
Right. And I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think on the Second Amendment, we can both agree. I think that when it comes to those types of laws, I would probably stand with where the majority of Republicans and conservatives stand in that aspect. But
I would say the same thing about president, now the same thing for me. And this is my point of view, and you can tell me I'm wrong. And you are. So good. Because I'm not perfect. But the way I look at it is when I hear someone say, okay, but President X doesn't have, and I turn around and I go, okay, what did the president before them, what about that person in that same position? And they go, I don't know. Then you don't care. You just don't like this president.
Well,
and you're looking for something to
very
pick
honest.
on.
I'm very self-aware of the fact that I hate Donald Trump. I don't like him.
See, and that's it. And
I
that means,
dislike him.
and I go through this all the time with people, and it's just, to me, it's the same thing as when people are saying, well, I hate guns. And you promote guns, so I hate you. And I'm going to find a way in the argument to just say that you're an evil monster. The question isn't whatever they're saying. I'm just trying to find a way to prove or justify the position I have. So when I hear someone say, well, how many women and it's whenever they say it about Trump or they say it about.
But I think the difference, though, is that Trump has a perception issue. He already is somebody that is looked at as somebody who does not respect women, who looks at them as trophies, who has collected multiple wives over the years, who has.
But that all started with the election.
Who has.
For 30 years, he had there was no perception of him negatively in terms of women.
I don't think that's true. I think people
look over his history.
I don't know if it would have been as wide scoped as it is now because people weren't necessarily paying attention to him as closely. He was just some billionaire who was on TV doing a reality show, right? So it's different. But when you're running the country, then at that point, he's got a 30-year history.
He's a celebrity, and he's been a celebrity for 30 years.
But celebrities and presidents should be held to different standards.
Well, yeah, they are. Most people know more about celebrities than they do presidents.
Right.
And so we had a celebrity who was on national TV, who was also a businessman, who had made great effort to make sure people would always know what he was doing, and people loved him or at least tolerated him. And he was very well covered by the press and the media, and no one cared.
Well,
and
that's
now
not
he's
true.
president.
There were people that disliked some of the things he would say about Obama with the whole birther issue and things like that.
That's political. I'm not talking about the political.
But he was political his whole career. I mean, he was back on Oprah in the 80s talking the same things he was doing on the campaign trail.
He was, and people followed him. And so, but up until he became president, none of that mattered, and no one cared. And he's the same thing. Well, it doesn't matter, and they should be held to different standards, though. Like I expect. Then why does it matter now?
I expect celebrities to cheat on their wife, and I expect them to divorce and have multiple marriages. That's the celebrity culture. That's Hollywood. But what I expect from a president is somebody who can commit to somebody and commit to something and stick by it and handle that with a level of dignity and honor and respect that's actually due the office. But he's bragged about grabbing women by their genitals, he just dismisses it as locker room talk. I mean, there's a whole bunch of issues. He's got a perception issue.
Was Kennedy a great president?
I wasn't alive during Kennedy.
That's all right. Was he a great president?
I can't really speak to that because I didn't study Kennedy. I mean, in high school, but let's be honest, that was a long time ago.
Okay.
So I'm talking about now. Okay. I'm not going to, I don't want to.
We're talking about now. Was Clinton a great president?
No, I don't think he was.
Was it because he had an affair? And
that was part of it.
Okay.
That really bothered me. I mean, let's see, when did that happen? In like 96, 97? I was 11 or 12 years old. Okay. So I'm learning all about sex before I probably should have been from a source that I shouldn't have been learning about it from.
But I'm trying to just make it apples to apples because we're looking at people are attacking President Trump for something that happened 11 years ago. 11 years ago.
That he's lying about.
So, and everyone lies about being caught in adultery. No one says,
okay, so what about the payoff? This $130,000 payoff we're talking about with Stormy Daniels.
Right.
he's denying that he knows there's a payoff,
Okay.
right?
He has an attorney for that.
So what attorney do you know that would just pay somebody $130,000 without their client's knowledge to help them or protect them?
Actually, quite a few.
Really?
Yeah, that's their job. That's his job.
That is not the job of an attorney to pay off somebody else to keep them from talking.
Sure. It's called a gag order, and he's putting out, he's making actually a contract with her for her silence.
And you truly believe that Trump didn't know about that?
He didn't need to necessarily. I don't know. And I would say probably he did. But then again, he didn't need to. His lawyer's job is to protect his client. Part of that protection
seems very corrupt to me.
It's actually a normal business practice.
But it seems corrupt to the average American.
It's actually not. It's actually perfectly legal. And it's actually something that she agreed to. She went out. She said, yes, I'll take $130,000 to never speak about this. Mm-hmm. And then she broke her word.
Right. And she's got her own issues. And I'm pretty sure she's doing a lot of this for publicity. Let's be honest. She's getting an awful lot of job offers out of this.
She's getting a lot of money out of this.
She's getting a lot of money out of it. So she's got her own side that she's playing, but that doesn't excuse the side of Donald Trump. So people are like, oh, she's a whore. She's a porn star. And I know you haven't said that, but I've heard this from so many Republicans and even evangelicals who are justifying that this happened 12 years ago. We didn't elect a pastor in chief. But as a female, I'm so uncomfortable with that argument. It really frustrates me.
Here's my thing I don't get. And by the way, we're way over. We're going to take a break in a second. I told you it goes really fast. But here's my thing is I'm comparing him. I'm trying to put an apples to apples comparison. We have a president who is currently to all knowledge and information, he's in a solid committed relationship with his current wife. This is an event that happened 11 years ago. And he's being punished today for what he did 11 years ago.
It's about the cover-up.
But I didn't hear anyone say the same kind of treatment about any other president, where what they did 11 years ago is what they're being attacked for in office when they were in office at that current time.
Hillary Clinton was attacked for just on the campaign trail.
What?
Something that happened over 20 years ago with President Clinton. And the cover up and the trying to hush up these women. No, people were talking about President Clinton's continuous and still existing history of rape and sexual abuse. Too. But that's current. But it's hypocritical because it doesn't apply to Trump. It only applies to Clinton because we hate the Clintons.
No, I'm saying that it's current. President Clinton is still being accused and being recognized, and
so is Trump. He's had 16 women come forward in the last 2 years.
That he did something currently while he's been president?
He's only been president for a year. This came out while he was on the campaign trail.
That he was doing stuff in the campaign trail.
Mm-hmm. And I have an issue with that.
Well, if that's actually proven and true, then I would have an issue with that. I don't like allegations. But I do recognize that we need the allegation to get to the truth. How much of it is real? How much of it is just, people on the money train? I don't know. And I always have a question when we start seeing people pile on and bandwagon, because then it's like, well, where's the truth and where are people just making money? But I also have a bigger problem of, I don't like judging someone today about something that may or may not have happened a decade ago, 2 decades ago, that we have no proof of.
This will be the last thing I say because I know we've gone over really long.
We've got plenty of time in the show. We just got to make breaks.
For me, if I wouldn't think of this as a huge issue if he had actually just come out and admitted it in a way that was, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but.
What man have you ever heard of that admits that he was an adulterer?
Well, then that's a problem with men then. Let's be honest.
I don't know any wife that would be happy with their husband saying that I made an adulterer.
I'm pretty sure she knows.
I don't know any woman who's ever admitted to committing adultery.
I'm pretty sure Melania Trump is well aware of her husband's escapades. Let's be honest about that.
Quite possibly. But you know what? I've never heard a woman say
But if he had come out and said, you know what? This is true. This happened 12 years ago. I'm really sorry if this, has, distracted from the job I'm doing. Let's move forward. I would respect that. But he is deny. That's his game. That's all he does is deny. He never tells the truth. And a president that can't tell the truth is a president that can't be respected.
Well, okay. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back because I just want to ask because I noticed or at least I seem to believe, and it's interesting to hear this. I see a disconnect because again, it comes back to there's the dislike of the man, but the function of the office are not the same. But we're mingling them together. And that's my understanding of it. But I want to be fair, and I want to come back and hear your thoughts on that. So we'll be right back, folks, in just a moment with more of our conversation with Felicia Mitchell, which is, I think, very interesting. And we'll talk more. Hello, everybody. There I am. Sometimes I forget where my own mute button is. Hello, everyone. It's Michael Voss with the No Soundbites podcast. I can't speak now. And I'm here with my favorite co-host, guest in the station. And that is Felicia Mitchell is here with us. And we're talking about President Trump. And we've had a very long segment. I'll probably break that a little bit, put a break in there. But we've been having a very interesting conversation. And now, when I took the break, I mentioned that I believe that a lot of people are looking at President Trump, and because they don't like his personality, they have found other things, and they're looking for things to say, okay, I don't like that either, so it justifies I don't like him. My thing is, I don't care, because I don't like a lot of presidents as a person, or maybe I did like them as a person, but that doesn't make them effective or not. And I see President Trump as being effective. Not that he's great. Not that I think, again, take away his Twitter, really, get better speechwriters. But at the same time, he's effective. And, we're speaking to North Korea. We're safer. We're seeing a lot of changes throughout the country that we've been asking for. Literally, people have been asking this for decades. I mean, getting tax cuts, that was something that every politician promised for 30 years. And under his administration, we actually finally got it. And we've had Republican Congresses before. We've had, Democrat Congresses before, supermajorities before, and they still didn't do things like tax cuts that they promised. Here we finally get it. So I see a difference between effective and whether or not he's nice. But you don't agree.
Well, I mean, I agree to a point. I don't like Trump. It's never been a secret. I'm very, very outspoken about that.
That's fine. Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that we can judge him on his effectiveness just yet. He's only been president for a year and a month, or a year and a couple of months at this point.
Look what he's done in that.
But I think history will tell if the decisions he's made and the legislation he's passed is actually going to do any good. Now, the tax plan, I'm not going to pretend to understand that. It goes way over my head.
It's actually pretty simple.
I know that I'm making a little bit more money now, but in a few years, is that going to change? And a lot of people have talked about, a few years down the road, when this particular tax cut expires, what it's going to look like at that point. It doesn't sound like it's going to be very pretty at that point. Depending on whether or not Congress will continue to pass those or continue to enact them remains to be seen.
Let's address that. Now, according to every accountant I've talked to who are preparing people's taxes right now, roughly 90% of people are seeing like you did, and like I have as well, are seeing an increase in the amount of money they have available and also seeing a greater return, about 90%. 10%, the top 10% or so are not seeing that benefit. They actually pay a little bit more in taxes. Okay. In addition to that, we are seeing that, a lot of things have, looking down the road, may or may not change. So will the tax cut continue to move forward down the road? Who knows? Depends on who's in charge at the time and whether that. But that's like saying, you're projecting the future. So President Obama promised that the Obama stimulus would take us out of the recession. Didn't happen. President Obama promised that the stimulus would suddenly create jobs. It didn't. There's a lot of things you can propose that may or may not happen. There's no way to know. I mean, that's an entirely different environment down the road. We can only speak about, is it working right now like it's supposed to? We were promised it would work. Is it working? The answer is yes. Is it creating jobs? Yes. Again, go back to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you can also go to the St. Louis Fed, and you can look at the chart. Self-employed businesses is on the rise for the first time in 8 years.
Mm-hmm. My brother just opened his own business. So, I mean, I can see that for sure.
Right. So that is a positive impact, and that comes straight out of the Trump administration and the Republican Congress. And we're seeing, and that creates jobs, and that goes down the line. Now, the thought is, if people have more money in their pocket now, and they're able to open more businesses now, small businesses create jobs. Everyone agrees on that. Mm-hmm. If we have more small businesses, more people will be able to work. That means there's more money in, and we create more money at the end of the day than if we had higher taxes. We have lower taxes, but more people paying in. We make more money than the other way around. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate? I don't know. It makes sense. And so far it's working. Mm-hmm. And I can say that the other way around, higher taxes, fewer people working, didn't work. Mm-hmm. So I think he's been effective. I think we can say that.
I'm thinking. I'm not ready to cop to that just yet, but
okay.
I'll think about that a bit.
Fair enough. But, it's something that I've always looked at. And, again, I want to look at, if you go to usdebtclock.org, just to give a number perspective here. Back in 2012, on this same day, real time, the U.S. government had in taxes $2.378 trillion. Okay. And if you go forward in time to 2018, today, real time, the government has $3.377 billion in revenue. So we have more money in taxes coming in today than we did 6 years ago. The problem isn't how much money in taxes the government's taking in. It's about how much we're spending.
Right.
And I don't think, and to say that, well, Trump is doing badly isn't accurate. He's bringing in more money.
They just passed a massive spending bill, though, didn't they? Where they added an awful lot of money to the deficit.
$1.3 trillion is the target.
So, I've always been a fan of Paul Ryan. I always looked at him as this fiscally conservative, really great person. This was a stupid bill. And this was ridiculous that they passed this. I mean, they cannot claim to be fiscal conservatives any longer if they're going to pass that kind of stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. Let's be honest. Like, that's a lot of money that is, and the thing is that they're funding stuff that they said they weren't going to fund in the campaign. I know Planned Parenthood is not a popular topic. I'm an extremely pro-life person. Mm-hmm. I would love to see Roe v. Wade overturned in my lifetime. Don't think it's ever going to happen, but I would love to see it. It's the rule of the land. That's the law. It is what it is. That's fine. I would love to see it overturned personally. Right. But they promised to defund Planned Parenthood. Oh, yes. And they fully funded Planned Parenthood. So there's like
$500,000.
$500,000?
Yeah.
Not 500,000. You said $500,000? Isn't it like $500 million they funded them? Like $500 million?
No.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
I know it was not just $500,000. They gave them way more than $500,000.
I get my numbers wrong, so let me double check.
I could be wrong too, but I could have sworn it was an insane amount of money.
No, it's actually not. Planned Parenthood, believe it or not, is really, it actually could self-fund itself. It doesn't need the money.
It doesn't, and that's a big problem that a lot of conservatives have, and that's one of the biggest gripes that they've had about Planned Parenthood. You can always find that.
Yeah, but go ahead. Keep going. I'm looking it up to find it.
I just think that there is just this spending bill is every hypocrisy that conservatives have touted over the years with Obama, that we need to be more fiscally responsible. And it's just not showing that. For the first time, don't know what party I belong to. I know I'm not a Democrat, but I don't necessarily know if I'm a Republican either. I just don't know where I stand anymore.
Well, I can understand that, and that's a good question. I'll ask that in a second. I found the number. It's $528 million.
That's what I thought. $500 million. A lot of money. That's a lot of money they threw in that spending bill.
Actually, it's not a lot of money as the government goes, but it's not a small amount either. Mm-hmm. But here's the question. So you're not sure if you're a Republican.
Right. I don't know.
Compared to
I mean, that's what
Senate.
I'm registered as. I always vote in the Republican primaries. But I'm unhappy from a local level all the way up to national level with what the direction my party has gone. I mean, just so many things.
Is that on a local level or is that just a national level?
Well, I don't like Claudia Tenney, I'll be honest. I know that you are a big supporter of her. Mm-hmm. She's our New York 22nd District Congresswoman. And she's probably a very nice person, but I think she's a bad candidate. And
Why?
I think because she has a perception issue as well. And the thing that Republicans are very bad at is controlling the narrative. They have not been able to figure out how to do that because the media is very much in the left's pocket. They are. Yeah. I'm honest about that. I believe that too. Mm-hmm. No matter what side you stand on, there's a lot of conservative media that's very biased. There's a lot of liberal media that's biased. The mainstream media, of course, tends to lean very much to the left. Yeah. So when you have a perception issue already with the things that you're saying, you have to be able to control your narrative, and she hasn't been able to do that. Okay. I think she has a big problem going up against Brindisi this fall.
Do you know anything about Brindisi?
I know that he is a young person who has a lot of energy.
Not that young, but okay.
A younger person who has a lot of energy. And I think that when you are looking at personality, he's going to have a little bit of an edge there. I don't know much about him as a candidate yet. I'm waiting to kind of go to some of these debates or listen to some of the debates and kind of learn a bit more. But I think...
Did you know he's in the middle of a scandal right now?
I do know that because I've listened to your podcast.
Okay.
So I'm aware of that. But the scandal is not getting the coverage. No. It's getting coverage from you. It's gotten coverage a little bit on Facebook from you, on your podcast, on your website. But outside of that, it's not getting a lot of coverage. And so if
not down here, not in the southern tier. In the Utica area, it's a big deal, but.
Yeah. But he's running in the southern tier though.
Oh, well, he's both.
Utica's part of the 22?
Yep.
Okay. So he might have an issue there, but I think that overall in general, Tenney's going to have a fight on her hands. And that's she's not the only one. I think Republicans are going to lose a good amount of seats this fall.
Okay. Well, no, I can understand that. And it's a very clear fact that there's a big narrative issue for most Republicans, no matter whether it's local or national, because they don't control the narrative very well. Right. That's true. No one should ever say, oh, you can't say something about like President Trump or Congresswoman Tenney. How I may personally feel on this show has nothing to do with whether people can say something. Always speak out. Okay. And I say that for everyone, not just my host, my guest here, but for everyone. Always bring it up. I mean, how do they improve if we don't tell them they're not doing something? Right? And that's why we need this conversation. Maybe people are not aware either way about the record. And I've always been very clear, I think, in saying, whatever I think about Anthony Brindisi, who I know for 5 years now, look at the record. Look at what they're doing. Same thing about Representative Claudia Tenney. Look at the record and then make your own decision. Mm-hmm. So I would never say, you can't say, oh, You don't like her. You don't have to. It's your vote. So that's a good thing.
I have a prediction, though, that if the Democrats take back the House and the Senate this fall, which historically happens a lot when the party in power has their first midterms, they typically lose a lot of seats. It's just historically accurate.
It does tend to happen.
If they lose control of the Senate and the House, we will see a different Donald Trump going forward. He likes to win. He doesn't care how he wins. He wants to win. We will see a liberal Donald Trump going forward, and conservative values and everything that conservatives voted for and Republicans touted and held so dearly are going to go right out the window because he no longer has the means to pass that kind of legislation, and he wants to be remembered as somebody who can pass legislation. He'll do it by any means necessary.
Well, that wouldn't be that different than President Obama, who, when he couldn't pass legislation, decided to use executive orders.
He still passed legislation that was true to his core ideology. And I don't think we're going to see that with Donald Trump. I think he'll pass legislation.
What is his core ideology?
Nobody knows.
I know. I can't say that he's honestly a liberal Democrat, libertarian. I don't know.
He's definitely not a conservative.
Not historically. He has fiscal concerns, but again, who knows? So that's a very good question. I don't think a lot of people have asked. I do know that the top issue that Democrats plan to move forward with, according to Representative Nancy Pelosi and State Senator Schumer, backed by Anthony Brindisi and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, they have all stated that they support the idea from Democratic leadership that if they take over the House, if they win the 2018 midterms, they're going to increase taxes. They're going to raise up personal taxes, business taxes. They're going to raise taxes immediately. And that's a story in Politico from March 7th, where they literally announced that not a lot of people have been talking about it. So that, if you're right, and President Trump is fluid in his political leanings and his core values, then that's kind of troubling, because the only thing that would stop a tax increase immediately would be the president. And if he's suddenly going, well, that's the way the political winds have changed, and I'm going to go that way, that would be very troubling. A lot of people would be, I don't know that businesses would be very happy about, we just got a tax cut, let me open up the business, and by the way, you just took away my profit margin because you raised the taxes the very next year.
Yeah.
That could be
Trump
bad.
doesn't like losing.
Yeah,
but
but
he needs people on his side to win.
But that I'm really worried about, I mean, look at that image. If this is all consistent, I mean, you tell me what you think. Democrats win the House and or the Senate, so they have the control of the House, of the Senate, of the Congress, and then they suddenly go, okay, let's raise taxes on these brand new businesses that we just started because we lowered the taxes. And if President Trump were to pass that and allow that to go through, the impact of businesses is going to be devastating, I would think.
I agree. I agree. And I think about that from a perspective of my brother just getting on his feet on his feet with his new business. He and his partner opened up their own construction company. Not in this area. They're out of the area quite a bit, but, I always wonder if the policies change so drastically overnight, what's going to happen to
his profit margin is going to disappear. Mm-hmm. Like he has this one plan of a profit margin based on our rates having been lowered. And then all of a sudden they're pushing them back up. And that profit margin he had planned on, which is why he opened it.
Yeah.
That's evaporating.
Yeah. And and people, I think, because I don't support Donald Trump, people call me a rhino all the time. I hate that. It makes me so mad. I am not a Republican in name only. I was a Republican before Donald Trump was a Republican. Yeah. And that kills me. So I think that I don't want to see our party lose the midterm elections. I don't. Mm-hmm. I want to see them win. I'm not actively against that. However, we have a big fight on our hands this fall, and I don't think it's going to be an easy one to win. And I have a feeling that we probably will lose it. Is that,
well, let me ask you this. Do you think that's because of the candidates we have, or because of the perception that Democrats are framing our candidates in?
It's a mixture. I think Republicans are getting into the mud with Donald Trump where they shouldn't be. I think when Claudia Tenney, and I know that, you've disagreed with me before when I said that the story that circulated about her making comments that the left and Democrats are responsible for more mass shootings. It's not NRA members. Mm-hmm. That's the perception of her out there. And I remember a Facebook post that had gone out last year about now we can say Merry Christmas again. Come on. I've never not been able to say Merry Christmas. So
a lot of people haven't. A lot of people, actually, I've talked to a lot of people, and they felt a lot of pressure about the whole Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays.
But that hasn't changed with Donald Trump. I mean, people still feel that same way.
I'm not saying that, but I did want to bring up that concern was a lot of people, non-political people, have mentioned that.
A lot of people still have that concern too, but Donald Trump is not the savior of Christmas, which I know a lot of Republicans have been out there like, oh, we can say Merry Christmas again. It's all thanks to Donald Trump. That's stupid. That's a dumb argument. And I don't agree with it. And I think when you say stuff like that and when you put yourself out there, you create that perception issue because you've gotten into the mud.
Right.
And Republicans need to stay out of that.
No, I can understand that. Isn't this fun?
It is fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, we've actually gone way over time, and we're almost approaching an hour here, which is at the limit of the show. We don't like to usually go over too much on that. And you see, it's easy. A lot of people think, looking at it now versus when you walked over.
Yeah. I was scared. I walked in and I'm like, I'm nervous. I don't want to do it anymore.
But was it so bad?
It wasn't bad at all. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. And isn't it nice to get your ideas out there and let people, and just to have a conversation?
Yeah. And uninterrupted. We didn't really interrupt each other. We let each other speak.
No, I want you to speak. Yeah, I want people to speak. I want to get the ideas out there and, just clarify, okay, what are we really talking about? And once we know what we're talking about, is there a common point or not, and why? Which you don't hear enough of.
Yeah.
So that's why I have this program. That's why I'm happy to have people who are not political to come in and, remind me that I've been involved in politics for, 12 years now. I don't always see things the same way as everyone else does, because I have a very different viewpoint. So it's good to hear the real world come back to me and go, well, Mike, you may think that, but everyone else, they have a slightly different opinion.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, whether I agree with it or not, it's a different opinion. So that's always good to have. It's always good to have that feedback. And I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself because, I enjoyed having you on the program. I love hearing your thoughts on this. And I know there's a lot more we could talk about. So you're always welcome to come back and always welcome to comment on the program so that we can find out more about what's going on. But I'll leave it as a teaser for people. Maybe you'll come back. Let's hear them ask for you and come back on and beat me up a little bit more. It's never a bad thing. Beat up on me on the politics.
I'll come back anytime.
Definitely. And for everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please do like, share, comment, tell people about this, call up or come onto the program, and let's talk about these things because nothing improves if you don't vote. And there's no way to make a good vote if you don't know what's going on. I always say that. I always believe that. When that doesn't matter what party you belong to. If you don't know what you're voting for, you're going to make a bad vote. And if you don't vote, that's even worse. Always believe that. Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to say before we end the show?
No, but thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Good, good. I'm glad, and we're always happy for that. All right, folks. So we'll see you back on the show very, very soon. I thank you for being here with us. And here we go.